Hey, what's going on, and welcome to another episode of Colbiac Fishing. Today I'm with my boys. I'm doing something that I have never done before. I'm going backpacking on the Appalachian Trail. Hope you enjoy it. Before we get on the trail, I wanted to just kind of do a brief rundown of what I was packing with me. And like I said, this was my first time backpacking. I've camped before and I wear a backpack, but I've never kind of put the two together and brought everything with me in one pack that I would need for a couple of days. So it was very interesting. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while. And I was fortunate enough to be able to borrow some gear from my buddy Nick, and I'll go through all those things here in just a second. But first, if you are not already a subscriber to the channel, please consider doing so. I mostly do fishing things and some outdoor stuff, but I'm really enjoying this backpacking thing, and I think I'm gonna start mixing and merging the two together of backpacking and fishing. I think it'll make for some pretty cool content. So if you would like to subscribe, go down to the bottom there and subscribe to the channel. And if you like the video, give it the old thumbs up. And if there's anything that you think that I could do better, which I'm sure there's a lot, if you're an expert backpacker or just a camper enthusiast in general, let me know down in the comments of some things that I can improve on. I know one thing is going a little bit lighter on a lot of these materials, but we'll kind of go through that here in just a second. All right, so here is the gear rundown. Started off with the pack. So the pack is a 40 liter, and I think it's like a 40 plus 5 because there's a little 5 liter storage top on the top of the pack. But this is actually a woman's pack, and it was awesome. It was super heavy duty, and it fit my body really well, which I don't know what that is supposed to mean or imply. But thank you to Nick again for allowing me to borrow a lot of these things, and this is actually his wife's pack, so thank you to Nick's wife Katie for letting me borrow her pack for a few days. And I just want to go through and run down everything that I stuffed in this bad boy. So we had I had a couple of water bottles, little smart water bottles, and we had our little Sawyer squeeze filtration system that you'll see kind of as we're going through the video. I had a poncho just in case it got crazy, little Frog Talks poncho. And I had a face covering, and this was my little sit pad. It was an inflatable sit pad. That's one thing that I do want to upgrade, is getting one that's not inflatable, because I get out of breath while you're hiking, and then having to blow something up to sit down is gets you lightheaded pretty quickly. So having something that I can just pull out and then sit down is my next thing that I will be purchasing. Here had just a couple of small toiletries, some toothpaste, some toilet paper for and also some wipes for just in case. And then had my food in just a little dry bag for a couple of days. Here's my cooking setup. I will be getting a smaller one of these for the future, so that way it can store inside the little cook pot. And inside the cook pot, I kept a lot of materials as well. I had some hand sanitizer, my stove, some matches, and also a lighter. And just in case if we wanted to do some primitive stuff, I had my little fire steel that I got from 3 Moon Knives, and you can check them out on Instagram. My buddy Will hooked me up with this one, and it's a pretty cool little ferro rod. So, and then I had my spork. Had a headlamp. I brought a couple GoPros, some extra batteries, some memory cards to show everything what we were doing, and I'm going to kind of work on that whole process, I think, when I go backpacking next time, with different angles and different things, because this time I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what kind of angles I was shooting for. I was just kind of doing it, So in this pack I have an extra pair of socks and a puffy jacket. Here is my nice fluffy pillow, and I know this is big, but this is a luxury item. I gotta have a good night's sleep, and the pillow, super comfortable. It's a Wise Owl pillow just from Amazon, which is awesome. My hammock and some stakes and stuff are in here. Had a sleeping bag, had a rain tarp, which was super heavy. I got this one from a hardware store. It's huge, it's bulky, an item I need to upgrade. And then also my sleeping pad. So things that Nick, my buddy, let me borrow. This and this and this and this and this and this, and I think that is it, which is a lot, which is basically everything. So my pack, my shelter, my sleeping bag, and my sleeping pad, he hooked me up with and let me borrow. So thank you again for him for allowing me to go with him and his friends. And it was pretty cool meeting those guys. So without further ado, let's get on to the trail. So here's the map of our hike that we did. We did about 20 miles in 2 days. And we started at Springer Mountain, which is at the beginning of the Appalachian Trail. And we went all the way up to Woody Gap. That's about 20 miles or so. And we actually sheltered at a place called Hop Mountain. You can see it right there on the map. Before we got to Springer Mountain, we actually arrived at Woody Gap, which was our takeout spot first. And it was a Saturday morning. It was foggy, a little bit rainy, kind of cool, so perfect fall weather. And then we met up with the guys and we took a shuttle up to Springer Mountain. So the first thing we did is we hiked up Springer Mountain without our packs, just as a little warm up and to knock out that first mile or so. And while we were up there, we saw some plaques on the ground that were really cool. And we saw these little journals that were found inside of a metal case that was in the side of a rock. And you could read some stories about people who were starting it or finishing it. We read one story about a little girl who was excited about getting her trail name. And of course, I had to take the opportunity to put my Kobiak fishing stuff in there, and hopefully maybe a subscriber or an Instagram follower will come from me posting or writing into that journal. So now we're off on the official hike. We threw our packs on. Mine was about 20 pounds, probably could have cut down on some weight, but that's okay. The scenery was absolutely beautiful. The fog was flowing through the trees, making the forest look very enchanted and magical. The trail was full of creek crossings. And thank you, Nick, again for the trekking poles, because without them, my knees would be having to be replaced more than likely after those 20 miles of hiking. And it was really cool going over a lot of the man-made bridges, and even some bridges were just a couple of pieces of wood laid across the creeks. But it was still really neat to think that how many people have come across these rivers and creeks over the years that the trail has been in existence.
Whew. All right, we have made it to our first shelter. We were about a couple miles in. We got Alex in the Hawaiian shirt. We got Nick, who I work with, and then Jake, and from State Farm, and his buddy Brian. And we've been just kind of walking around the Appalachian Trail, doing some just hiking, checking out the scenery. I'm sure you've seen some pretty cool little B-roll shots. The pack that I have is probably close to 20 pounds or so, which is heavy for what we're doing. So today we're doing about 7-ish miles, and then tomorrow is the big day. So after the 7 miles today, we'll end up doing, somewhere in the teens the next day. So but the pace has been pretty okay. Like I said earlier, this is my first time, and just I'm trying to channel my inner handlebar mustache to power through what's happening and what we're doing. But everything is been pretty good so far. I've seen some pretty cool streams, and now we're chilling at this cool shelter. They got some bear cables. There's a privy that's down the way. There's like a little food box to put your stuff in, and a nice little fire pit. So it's pretty cool stuff. So we're stopping, we're getting lunch, and then back at it.
So we just left the first shelter, and we're just crossing creek after creek after creek. And little did we know that there was a really cool surprise waiting for us just up ahead.
What's this place called again? Fall. So we made it, what is this, halfway? No. A little bit more, we're a little bit more halfway, stopped off at Long Creek Falls. Check it out.
I know what you're thinking, and yes, you're absolutely right. There is a cemetery that is along the Appalachian Trail, and at the cemetery is a shelter, and yes, people stay here overnight. How spooky is that? So we started walking around, looking at the old graves, paying our respects to this old Civil War time cemetery, and really walking and watching where we were trekking through. Didn't want to disturb any of the dead because, you know, zombies and things, hands coming out of the ground maybe. And then we came across this interesting looking contraption over to the side, and turns out it was a ride, and we just called it the ride. And it was so much fun, probably a little too much fun, but it was so good for morale because we were tired. It'd been a long walk so far, a lot of stops after the waterfall, so just another big boost for us to get us to the end of the first day. And spinning around on that crazy contraption kind of made me feel like a kid again, and it was just super nostalgic. And to think about how many people have come through the trail and have gotten a morale boost from this same exact ride was pretty cool kind of think about.
All right, little update for you. Where are we at right now? Yeah.
Cemetery.
We're at a cemetery, or we were at a cemetery of Hickory Flat Cemetery, New Bethel Church. They had that fun little contraption over there that probably broke many a bone in its time. And now we're just gonna keep on trugging through, and where's the next stop?
Probably Hawk Mountain.
Hawk Mountain. Setting up campsite, and we'll show you all that when we get there.
Eat some din.
Oh, God, dinner sounds so good. All right. All right, we made it. Yay.
Mango! Woo!
Yeah. Gonna set up our hammocks and chill out, get some grub. Yum. So, as you know, GoPro doesn't work the best in low light conditions, but we just finally got done with dinner. You saw the mush that I was eating. It was delicious-ish, nice. So now we're just sitting around in our hammocks. You can't see anything. Wow. You see this little glowing light. That's pretty awesome. All right. Great lighting. Here's my home, my shelter. In a hammock.
Sorry.
Night.
So I just had my first sleep adventure in a hammock, and I will say that I was pretty impressed with the hammock sleeping. I didn't really get wet at all, a little bit, because some of the condensation that was coming off of me was attaching to the top of my little tarp and it was dripping back down. Also, early in the morning, probably about 4 or 5 a.m., the cloud that was at the mountain where we were at just kind of sat right on top of us. So even though I was underneath the tarp, it didn't matter because we were in a cloud. So I kind of got a little moist, but that was okay. All in all, I slept pretty good. I woke up a few times. You hear things go bump and snapping sticks in the night, and the first thing you think of is it's a bear. But like they say, you don't have to outrun a bear. You just don't need to be the slowest person.
Well, good morning. We got up at about 6:15. Went down to the river. Got some water. Got everything broke down. Packs are on. About to head out.
So unfortunately, day 2 was not filled with a lot of videoing actually on the trail because it was grueling. Those 12 miles of up and down were absolutely taxing on my hips, on my thighs, on my knees, on my ankles, my feet. Everything was hurting so bad. But luckily I had those trekking poles, and I also had 2 knee braces to help me push through. There were a couple of items that were in my mind that were helping me to focus. One, lunch. I was waiting on those instant potatoes with that meat stick that I was gonna crumble up in there. Also, there was some pretty cool fungus and also some little creatures along the way that we stumbled across. And so it was cool seeing nature at its finest, and the woods were just looking absolutely gorgeous and beautiful.
Oh, what are we doing? Wow, we just hiked up a huge mountain, but it's a pretty cool little enchanted forest looking area. Found a nice campsite. Gonna get some second breakfast and some lunch all at the same time. I think we're actually gonna cook for lunch. Mashed potatoes it is.
So after lunch, those taters and that meat stick are feeling so good right now in my stomach. It was so rewarding. My spirits are up, and we started walking again, up and down and up and down. And it was starting to warm up a little bit, so we're going through a lot of water, and we're getting close to running out of water when finally we're on this very steep ascension for about a mile or so, and we stumble across this really cool creek area.
All right, we're at the halfway point for day 2. We're about 6 miles in. We got about 6 miles to go. We're stopping at this beautiful place to get water. This is called Devil's Kitchen. So if hell's this bad, man, just imagine what heaven is like.
So we are almost done with the day's hike. We still have some more little spots and major sections to hit, but for the most part, the hardest work is already done. We ended up stumbling across this fun little contraption that was just sitting in a tree.
We found this sweet box just sitting in this little tree. Let's open it and see what's inside. Oh man, lost the game.
And it's crazy to think how many people have probably come across this box thinking something cool was in it to then just be let down by losing a game. So we thought that was pretty funny. We're just laughing about that for a while. And then more games. We get to this place called Gooch Gap Shelter, and they had a primitive checkerboard set up. So me and Nick, we put our minds at the test of checkers and went back and forth for a while, but I pretty much just got dominated and he wrecked me, and that was pretty fun. But
good game, sir.
We are at the 5 miles to go point here at Gooch Gap, and so spirits are high. The hardest part is over, and we just are trying to finish at this point.
All right, we are in the final stages, boys.
What up, what up?
3.6 miles left. Almost at Woody Gap. How many have we put in so far just today?
Today would be almost 9, 8.5.
So far?
Yeah.
8.5 so far. First time backpacking for me. These guys have done it. They're pros. I'm a little punk, but 3.6 miles left. Let's go. Send it!
So now we're on our last 5 kilometers, the last 3.1 miles, and we are just finishing strong. The clouds and the fog are starting to burn off. We're getting high enough to where you can start seeing little blips of scenery peek through the trees, and we come across the most beautiful overlooks. The trees are starting to turn colors for fall, and it was just absolutely breathtaking.
This is what it's all about. This is what it is all about. We're right here near the end. Goodness gracious me. That is gorgeous. I'm glad that the fog cleared up. Man, it's awesome. All right, we just finished the 20 miles to Woody Gap, and they have a party for us apparently. They're doing a bike race called Six Gap bike race, and they're just jamming out, just rooting these guys on, and they have a little stop for them here to refuel, get some beverages. Awesome. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. It was ridiculous. So much fun backpacking with these guys, and maybe this will be the start of something interesting. Maybe we'll back into some places where I can do a little fishing. So, as always, go check out the merch store. Check out my sponsor website at carvco.com. That's carv-co.com. And baby, keep those lines tight.